G'day everybody, and for those who come in late, you're listening to Expand the Phans podcast.
He washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, "I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die." The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware. The Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom.
Hello, we are the Chronicle Chamber team, and this is Expand the Phantom podcast. Our website is chroniclechamber.com, and you can contact us via our email, which is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. We are on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to us for our latest podcasts on YouTube or your various favourite apps, including iTunes and Spotify. Now, today, this is episode 218, and we are going to be having another chat with another fan/creator. We had one of these in 2016, and it was very, very popular. And so we decided to revisit it. And today we are with Matt. But before we go to Matt, we are going to check in with Dan, who has joined us. Welcome, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, good, Jim. It's good to be back. I've been a bit hit and miss with the podcast lately, but when you messaged today to say you were talking to Matt tonight, I thought, well, I've got to get the kids to bed. I don't care how many Friday night football games are on. They're both boring. And so the kids are in bed at quarter time and I'm here to talk to Matt, and I'm delighted to do so.
It's good to see you got your priorities all sorted. And we're doing it on a Friday night before Mother's Day, so that way we can have Saturday, Sunday with the wives and our mums and stuff like that as well. So thank you for joining us. And so, Matt, how are you, sir?
Oh, thank you. Look, that was very touching, Dan. I appreciate that very much. So I feel the same way. Thank you, Jim, for inviting me on. As I've said off camera, I hope that your readers aren't getting sick of me, your viewers, but they're not getting too fatigued.
Well, like I said, if the numbers are down on our listeners and stuff like that, maybe maybe they are, and then we'll never have you on again. But I'm sure they won't.
My swan song.
I'm sure it won't be the case because everyone that I've talked to has said they enjoyed getting and talking from Phantom perspectives, who is both a fan and a creator. Yeah. And you are a very deep thinker when it comes to Phantom. And I guess I'll back up a little bit. One of the reasons why we did do this is because you did a fabulous donation for UNICEF for the Ukraine, and that raised over $300. So when we did the video, you agreed to do a video. I sold it to you as we'll spend maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes on connected on the phone, on Zoom and stuff like that. I told my wife that, I might be half an hour. 2.5 hours later, we finally said goodbye. And a lot of the stuff we talked about is hopefully what we're going to discuss tonight. So I absolutely love that topic. I know Dan was very jealous when I said that I spent 2.5 hours talking with you about a lot of these topics that he likes as well. So we thought, what better than do a podcast, and then everyone else can crack open a beer or a glass of milk and enjoy the conversation with us. And hopefully it won't be 2.5 hours.
Wonderful.
So I guess for those who have come in late, in about 1-2 minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your age, and then we can kind of go from there.
Sure thing. All right. Well, I guess people would probably know me from the 2 stories I've previously had published from Frew. So there was A Day at the Races, which had a 1930s Rain Moore Lee Falk kind of nostalgia to it, which is what I was trying to achieve. And then I worked with Shane Foley, and we created Diana and the Heartbreakers Gang, which we tried to step it forward a decade. So it had a bit of a 1940s feel. Wilson McCoy. I wrote that one and Shane illustrated it. At the moment in the shops, you can find part 1 of our new story, The Issue of Eloise. But as far as me personally, I'm a Phantom fan from 1988 when I picked up my first Phantom comic, and I was already sort of aware of the Phantom from some family friends. But yeah, I don't know what it is about the Phantom. We've spoken about this before. It's his integrity, the fact that he's, you know, a white hat superhero. He never does anything wrong ever. I just instantly fell in love with the character and the supporting casts. And as you can imagine, Diana, because virtually all my stories are about Diana. So yeah, 42 now. Still love the Phantom, and very happy to be here talking about him with you guys.
So, quick question. I know you've got a love for Diana. Were you able to name your daughter Diana, or
Well, I don't have a daughter.
Oh, you don't have a daughter. What about? So, was that kind of like on the cards, or?
Look, I don't know. Like Diana is a very special character to me. I think you know, probably one of my favorite female fictional characters. And, you know, I feel very, very honored to have been able to incorporate her in my stories. And, you know, when the opportunity came to write a Phantom story, it just sort of, it became a strong theme for me almost immediately. I want to write a really good Diana story where she doesn't just get kidnapped and she doesn't just appear at the very beginning and the end. I want her in it. And, you know, people who've read that story, the races, Diana is actually the main character in it. Like the Phantom kind of takes a back seat. He's still, you know, prominent in the story, but it is a Diana story. And then when opportunity knocked again and I had a chance to write my second story, I sort of fell into the same trap. Well, not a trap, the same area, same themes. You know, Diana again was front and center, and you know, she was on the cover as well. Like Kit wasn't on the cover. So yeah, would I name my daughter Diana? I don't know. I think since Diana was created, we've also had Princess Diana. I think, but then again, like my son's Harry, and everyone says, "Oh, did you name him after Harry Potter?" No. Did you name him after Prince Harry? No.
You probably don't want a Diana. So with the issue with Heloise, is this because that's not a Diana story, but is this you looking to explore the younger generation of female character? Like it's
yes, absolutely. And it's funny. I was thinking about what we might discuss in tonight's podcast, and I was thinking about my experience or my view on Kit and Heloise. And, you know, in the 80s and 90s when I was younger, I used to hate stories which had Kit and Heloise. I couldn't stand them. I didn't like the Phantom having children. As a teenager and as a child and a teenager, I found those stories really boring. You know, the Phantom goes to Eden and he's spending time with the kids and just so boring. And also the fact that they were babies for like, you know, for decades. I just couldn't stand it. But now what Tony DePaul's doing with those characters, and now that they're grown up a bit, I just absolutely love them. I think that they're the most exciting thing about the Phantom at the moment. They are the future of the Phantom. They always have been, but now that they're older and they're having their own adventures.
They're on the cusp of it, aren't they?
Oh, just... this is a golden age for the Phantom, absolutely.
So
I really love them, both of them.
We'll talk a little bit more about Kit and Heloise and the 22nd Phantom soon, because that is one of the subjects that I do want to talk about. So I got a question, because you and Duncan are very similar in the sense that you are exploring the mythos of Rex as well.
Yeah.
And the whole Misty Mountains and all that. So the obvious question is, are you on team Princess Alicia or team Captain Lara for who ends up with Rex?
I don't want to have a fight with Duncan. You know, I love Duncan. I think he's fantastic. You know, when he and I chat, we chat hard. And, you know, I think we're big fans of each other. You know, we've got this mutual respect thing happening. And I've told you, I've actually said it on film in my review that his story was my favourite story of last year because he gets the Phantom. You know, he's a real student of the Phantom. But where he is way, way off is Alicia.
Oh.
Now, if you want to have Duncan is a terrifyingly large man as well.
Yeah. I'm on Princess Alicia bandwagon.
Are you?
Yeah.
How dull?
I don't know. Maybe it's the blonde princess that gets me. Every man's dream. But but no, I don't know. Captain Lara just never did it for me.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put my hand on the table as Captain Lara as well, because it's oppositional to Germ, which is important. but also just there's the thrill there, and it's a bit different. It's we always talk about the Phantom always being completely true and honest and honourable and all the rest of it. Surely Prince Rex can have a dalliance.
Yeah, I just think as well, like Alicia is the perfect character for a writer to always get kidnapped and need saving.
Mm.
And Lara is the perfect character to always, kick butt and to be an exciting, character. And like Rex isn't going to be a Phantom. Rex stories, are often a separate sort of angle. So it doesn't really matter like who he goes with. And it doesn't impact on the Phantom legacy. But I just think like from a fan's point of view and from a storytelling view, I just think Lara is just loaded with, like interesting scenarios and yeah. But no offense to Jim or to Duncan or anyone else who's on Team Alicia. Like, Falk created her and that was maybe the original plan. But yeah, I don't know. Just that's where
I'm looking forward to next time you meet Duncan. Then after Duncan's listened to this, and
well, it's funny because I wrote that story at the beginning of 2020.
Oh wow!
Like things take a long time to come out, and I'm not sure if your audience know that sometimes it can be really frustrating because you have a story and you're ready to go and you've got the art team ready, and the process is so slow. So after writing my story, I read Duncan's story where it was all about Alicia. And I thought, oh God. I didn't mean, because obviously my story is going to come out far, later than his story. When it was published, I realized my story wouldn't be out for a long time. And my story wasn't written to counter his story. They existed separately. But yeah,
So just to clarify, that's 2.5 years between when you submitted the issue with Eloise to Frew, and now we're seeing part 1 here in May of 2022.
Yeah, there's a long wait. They've as you know from talking to like Jason Paulus and people like that, they've got a lot of material.
Yeah,
and I also, in my experience, Frew don't seem to want to. They don't want to proceed with anything while you've already got something on the go. Well, I know that varies. I know Duncan's probably got a whole bunch of things on the go, but the way I've worked with them is that they didn't want me to start anything until the previous thing was out. So, I had a very, very long wait between my first 2 stories.
Yep.
But that's not because it took a long time to make it. Like I had that second story ready to go, but, it just went on the schedule. And then, I pitched the current story to them and, they just weren't ready for it. They wanted to wait until Diana and Heartbreakers came out and then they greenlit it. So, I've got 2 stories sort of just sitting in limbo. Well, no, I've got 1 story sitting in limbo now because the issue of Eloise is finally starting to come out. But I've got a story which focuses on Kit. So,
nice.
Yeah, 2 stories about Diana, a story about Eloise, and now my Kit story. So hopefully you don't have to wait 2 years to see that.
Any chance at some point you could write a story about the Phantom, Matt?
Look, as a secondary character, yeah.
But because one thing, and I've said this on the podcast before, one thing, if I was to be critical of Lee Falk, is that he never established or went into a lot of detail with secondary characters.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I've liked about what Tony DePaul's done in the last 10, 15 years is with it, really hitting the straps. You've done it with Diana, with Heloise in this story, and then Duncan has done it as well. And even Pity Anderson's done it with
The 19th.
the 19th Phantom and Julie Jane, sorry. And so it's kind of like there's so many rich characters out there, and I think for the character to go forward, you need to be able to develop these secondary and third level characters.
I completely agree,
and it's something that you guys you've done really well, and I've been enjoying it. Like, you're right, the Phantom's is a backup character in here, but and I love the banter between Kit and Heloise, for the first page and a half, and stuff like that. It was golden. And anyone who's got brothers or sisters, just
or anyone who's ever taught in the middle school, Matt.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's. I agree with everything you've both said just there. I've been really marveling at the current writers now, how they're including so many of these characters and building them up. Like, obviously Tony DePaul is the main one because he's got the big gig, but just seeing Kit and Heloise and their supporting cast come around, it's incredible because like you've said, Lee Falk, he created a really good range of characters to support our Phantom. Dr. Axel and Moz and all these characters, and then the president and all that. But now we're seeing all these new characters coming up who are coming up with the twins. And I love the Duncans jumped on board that, and I'm trying to as well. Stories which put Lara and Alicia and other more obscure characters, friends and colleagues. Might be jumping the gun, but
we saw, talking about other characters, we saw Steggy. Are we going to see who's?
No, I'm not going there.
Can I say, and I would absolutely be saying this when we review that issue on our next Comics and News, but to say to your face, Matt, I really loved the way that you were able to bring the idea of Steggy into this story. It just the way the sequence was. Oh, it's fantastical! It's a jungle myth and legend. But the hardcore Phantom fans know, no, there actually is a Stegosaurus. But then the hardcore Phantom fans who hate the Stegosaurus can dismiss it as a legend. It's a perfect balance. Well done.
Well, you might see in the bottom of that page, Beatrice, she says, John, what these people are saying is insane. Like, yes. she thinks they've all gone mad.
Exactly.
And there is a Phantom story where the Phantom rides Steggy through the jungle, and virtually everyone in the jungle turns out to watch it. Thousands and thousands of people watch it.
Yep. Or like when Lance Franklin kicked his 1,000th goal at the MCG, the whole SCG, the whole of Australia was there. Everyone saw it. We promised we did. It's a legend.
Yeah. So it can be read either way. Exactly.
No, you've done that. You did that really, really well. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, because even when I sent the script through to Shane, he said, "I can't believe I'm drawing Steggy in a Phantom story." Like, has Steggy been used in the last 30 years?
It was brilliant the way you brought it in.
No, sorry, I had to say that. So if there was, so now you said that you've explored Diana, you've exploring Heloise in here, and I'm really looking forward to that. You said you've exploring Kit in a future issue. Is there another character or another story in you that that's kind of like you really, really want to explore, that you really, really want to write?
Yeah.
And without giving too much away, because hopefully you'll get to write that story one day, could you tell us a little bit about that if you do have one?
Yeah, I've got it. I've got my story, which is by far my favourite Phantom story. I mean, from mine, from the four I've written. and I'm really excited about it, but I haven't pitched it to Frew yet because I want to wait at least until the kit story is green lit. Some exciting news is that Dudley wrote to me the other day and said that it will come out this year, the kit story.
Oh wow!
Because it's finished. It's ready to go. Like it's
is that a 22-page main story, or is that a series?
It's a two-parter.
Yep.
So it's a 20-page all up.
Yep.
So and the reason for that is after the success of the first two stories, Dudley wrote to me and said, what we're really after at the moment are short stories. Could you do like an 8-pager or a 10-pager?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, I can't. I'm not good enough to write a short story. My stories ramble on just like my conversations. So
that's all right. You're among good company on this podcast.
Yeah. So that was back, at the end of 2019, basically, when he said, look, if you want to pitch something, keep it short. So, I tried and tried and tried. And I already had these two stories, the Halloween story and the kit story, but I serialized them and said, look, this could run over 3 issues if you do it in blocks of 10. And the second story, that's a 20-pager. So, if you got room for it, great. If you want to cut it in half, that's fine. But so that story, according to Dudley from a few days ago, will see print this year. And I've got a better understanding of how it all works now through your podcasts about how, they have a certain amount of comics which are going to be 36 pages and a certain amount which are going to be whatever. So, because the barcodes are already like pre-bought. So Dudley's, he's always trying to figure out, what story is going to fit, and am I going to put some ads in, or I'm going to put, the forum, or will I get someone to do a really short little story? And I don't know about you guys, but I think that sometimes those really short stories, they don't quite hit the mark, and they might be written by a really good writer. They might have great art, but I don't know, unless you're Alan Moore or someone, it's hard to tell a really good, interesting story with some substance in 4 or 5 pages. I can't do it. I'll admit I can't do it.
I think that substance is the key part that you hit on there, because I've enjoyed the 3, 4, 5-page stories, but they're not substantial.
Yeah, and it's no fault of the author either. Like they're good authors. It's just it's really hard to start something and conclude it in such a short space. So
see, I'm kind of the opposite. Sometimes I like it, just as like I like a good going to Hungry Jack's and getting a Whopper or something like that, having a bit of a junk food sugar hit. That's how I kind of see some of the the 4-page short stories. It's junk food. It's a junk food style Phantom story. It's something you can quickly read.
Yeah.
You don't, you don't have to block out a half hour or an hour of your time, or go hide in the toilet while you read the latest Phantom comic so you don't get interrupted by the kids. It's something you can, probably shouldn't say it, but while you're stopped at the traffic lights in the car, or it's something you can kind of do in 1 or 2 mouthfuls, and it kind of gives you that bit of sugar hit. And because I know when I'm extremely busy, it's hard to read a 36-page Phantom story sometimes.
And I know, like my 2 stories that came out previously to the new one, like they're slow and they're dense. Like I put a lot of people to sleep, I'm sure. And I think
it takes time to read it.
Yeah, it does, and you need to slow down. And it's not just one visit to the toilet; it might be 2.
or one really long visit where they knock on the door and say, "You're still alive in there?"
Yeah, you really needed quite a few red lights before you get home.
I should stress that's not a good idea.
Yeah, no, it is not. But we've said before that you enjoy different pace of stories too, and that's part of the beauty of the Phantom, and I guess the luxury that Tony DeBall has with his Sundays and his dailies is he can decide how long or short it is. You're a bit far more constricted by publishing conditions and, having to chop up stories and turn one story into 3 chapters and all the rest of it.
Yeah. You might have seen as well, like I tried to make the current story, the pacing a bit faster. It's not like a strip. It's not a Wilson McCoy. I've asked Shane to use his style, not to try and replicate someone else.
Yeah.
So I want to showcase his art because I think Shane's an amazing artist.
Yeah.
And those pages, I was just overjoyed every time I'd get an email from Shane, whether it was just his pencil sketches or a finished page. I was just like in heaven. I love seeing your own story through someone else's eyes is a really special, amazing feeling.
I really like this panel as well. I don't have scans of it at the moment, but that's like where, you got Julie, the 17th Phantom's sister, and Juliet Adams, who was the 5th or the 6th Phantom's wife, from the top of my head. It's just, it's celebrating those secondary characters again and stuff like that.
And you notice as well, Shane slipped in that scene from the seahorse in the panel above.
Let's see that one.
On the same page.
Oh, yes.
So the Phantom's dangling near the propeller.
Yeah. And then you've got the old classic Wilson McCoy's Slam Evil. And then you've got the Cy Barry classic Fighting Redbeard. Yeah.
And so I didn't put that in the script. I allowed Shane freedom to put in what he wanted. I just said, I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but I indicated that I wanted like a bit of a some sort of shot which showed the Phantom in various historical Phantoms. And that's what he did. And I was really happy with that.
So another question, I don't want to spend too long on here because I want to get to some more trickier questions. Are you able to tell us who the artist is for the kit story?
Yeah. I'm very, very happy to tell you that I was the artist on the kit story.
Awesome.
And that was a big moment for me because, I've had nothing but difficulty getting my stories published with King Features. The first story that came out with the Ray Moore style, that the feedback was that the art ranged from poor to fair. That was like as good as it got in their opinion. And then the art was rejected entirely for Diana and the Heartbreakers gang. So with this current story, the Halloween story, I didn't even attempt the art. I got onto Shane and said, "Hey, let's make a comic." In fact, that whole thing happened in the podcast when I met Shane for the first time, and we said, "Hey, let's work again together." I think I got onto him immediately after that and said, "All right, are you into it? Because I've got an idea." Yeah, but the new story, the kid story, I had another crack at it. If I'm honest with you, out of sort of embarrassment that my previous art had been rejected. It was kind of it was a bit embarrassing having someone else redo the art. So I thought, for my own pride, for my own ego, I'm going to buckle down and try really, really hard. I'm not going to try and do a Ray Moore or a Wilson McCoy. I'm going to do my own style.
Yep.
And just pray that someone at King's doesn't hate it. And Dudley indicated the other day that it got approved.
Oh, wow, awesome.
And that's the first one which got approved without some ordeal. Even the Halloween story had to have a few edits in it.
Oh,
that's awesome! Congratulations, mate. That's
well done.
Thanks. I hope when it comes out, obviously, whenever you put anything out, you hope people are going to like it. But this one's really special to me because it's not a Ray Moore imitation. It's my style.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad I asked that question then.
Dare I ask, and feel free to answer this however you like, but do you think that might have anything to do with the D word? One of the first podcasts we talked to you about was the demon. Do you think that has had anything to do with it?
In what way, Dan?
Oh, do you think the KFS might be prejudiced against you because of?
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I don't know. I just maybe yeah. I don't think so. I don't think they're holding that against me. I think maybe I was just a bit unlucky. Maybe the editor didn't quite get what we were trying to do. Like if I dwell on it too much, I'll start to get paranoid and think, oh, they're out to get me. I'm on the blacklist. Why they make things so difficult every single time.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been difficult this time.
Yeah.
And with the Heloise story, the feedback I got was that I'd made Heloise too teenagerish, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
There was, like they said, you've got to change the way she talks. Heloise doesn't talk like that. She sounds too hip and too cool. And I thought, oh, okay, it's a shame they saw it that way because, I think Heloise is hip and cool. I think she could be like a cool teenager. So I kind of had to go back and change her dialogue to be a bit more, I don't know, a bit more like straight, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
And the first page where Kit was like razzing her up, they really wanted me to tone that down. They didn't like Kit teasing her.
Yeah. Right.
So I sort of plan. I want to post the page as it originally was. Shane's actually lettered it the way that it originally was, and I want to put it out there just so people see it. And it's not to like say screw you, the King features or anything. It's just so people can see like how it originally was. And they can sort of make their own decision if it was too far or. I don't know.
Well, with this podcast, we can include it on the page.
Yeah,
and put it up on the Patreon and stuff like that. Yeah, please do. All right, Dan, you got any last questions about Matt as a creator from like his stories and stuff? Because I want to get onto some questions.
Go for your questions, Jim.
All right, so a lot of these questions are similar ones as what we asked Duncan. And I think some of these questions are kind of like the harder questions, and I think every fan and I think every creator actually has an opinion that's slightly different to every single other person. So
yeah,
I really enjoy learning about people's opinions about these questions. So that's where I've been really enjoying this little mini series of podcasts that we've been doing. So you're a teacher. For those who don't know, you're in your early 40s, if we can call it that. You've got, how old are your sons?
I've got a son in year 7 and a son in year 8.
Okay, so they're kind of like the prime target audience for the Phantom, right? You deal with a lot of kids that age.
Yeah.
I know Dan and Stephen do as well. So what are your thoughts on how can we get new readers and new fans of the Phantom?
Yeah.
Is it as simple as a TV show / movie, or is there more that we can do? And what can the publishers do, but then also what can KFS do without getting yourself into too much trouble, getting yourself blacklisted, of course.
Getting re-blacklisted. Yeah. Well, I think the obvious answer is the exposure that would come from a TV show or a cartoon and a movie. But I'll just take it back a second. I am a teacher and I've been lucky enough to create my own Year 9 elective called Comics 101. And the kids, the students are exposed to different types of comics, with superheroes, slice of life, all sorts of different comics. And they create their own comics, they read comics, and they create and they draw their own comics. And I always ask...
I would have liked that subject at school.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
It's fun because the kind of kids that it attracts as well, because it's an elective, you get like these fantastic kids. Some of them are really into comics. Some kids don't know anything about comics, but they like cartoons. But I always, I show them pictures of different superheroes, and the character who they never know is the Phantom. And it's sad. Or they say, oh, I think my dad used to like the Phantom, or oh, my grandpa's got a pile of those. But I say, have you ever read one? No, they haven't. So kids, they can identify DC and Marvel characters and some of the Image characters. And I was a bit sort of surprised because I thought the Phantom still is in newsagents. Kids would still see it. But then, what kid goes to newsagents these days?
Or if they're in the newsagent with their parents, they're looking at their phone instead of at the shelves.
Yeah. Well, what used to be like a really important shop, like the heart of the suburb would be the newsagent, because people would go there and buy their magazines and they'd buy their newspapers, and now it's an online world. There's less magazines and newspapers are being sold, and people who want to gamble, they can gamble online. There's so few reasons to go to a newsagent now. So I just remember going to newsagents, like, I'd beg my parents, I want to go to the newsagent, driving down to the newsagent. I'd have all my money and I'd buy all my Phantoms and my Batman and Spider-Man. I'd walk out with a stack of comics every time.
Yeah.
And, you go to the newsagents now and they don't have any Marvel or DC comics. And if they do, they're about $7.
And they also had like lollies, and all the corner shops always had like the lollies, and you used to be able to go get the milk and the bread for mum and dad, and then go buy a Phantom comic or stock up on lollies and stuff like that as well.
And there was something for everyone in the newsagent. I used to live with my mum and also my grandparents, and if I could talk mum into driving me down, she'd have a look at the magazines, and if I could talk my grandfather into taking me down, he'd have a look and chat. But my local newsagent when I was a kid was in Hurstbridge, and they sold toys there. I used to buy Ninja Turtle toys from there. It wasn't a toy store, it was a newsagent. But there were toys, there were lollies, there were magazines, there were posters, there was all sorts of cool stuff. So I just wanted to give you that context that teenagers do not know who the Phantom is. And they don't know. And I'm not exaggerating. They don't know. They honestly don't know. So there's our problem. We need the Phantom's profile. We need him out there, and we need him to be seen by young kids. We need him to be seen by teenagers. We need him to be seen in the places where they look. So online, YouTube. He needs a much bigger presence on Instagram and Facebook. TikTok, I suppose, is where the kids are going now. I don't know how that would work. I don't.
Well, I asked Duncan if he was going to get up in his Phantom costume and start doing some jungle dances for us, but he wasn't keen for it. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
I think that TikTok is evolving. It's not just about dancing anymore, and there would be scope to just have 60-second videos or 60-second stories. The same way you talk about junk food 4-page stories there before, Germ. Like you could have 60-second, 2-minute videos, reels, or whatever you call them on whatever platform you're on, those short video format. There's scope for that, but it would want to be done professionally, I think, and it would be fantastic for me. It would be fantastic if it linked to some sort of Netflix series, and we've talked about that a thousand times. And that's part of what you're talking about too, Matt, about putting it where the teenagers are looking, and that is on the streaming services.
I think as well, and I don't know about your experiences, but I started reading the Phantom when I was young. Like I was 8 years old when I first started reading the Phantom. And, so many people say comics aren't for kids, but I mean, I was a kid. I started reading comics. Comics are for kids, of course.
Comics are for kids.
Yeah.
We, the three of us are the falsehoods. pretending that comics are for adults. They're not really.
For big kids.
Yeah. Well,
But no, because I used to read the Asterix, the Tintins, Commandos. Used to read Lucky Luke's, Donald Duck, all the Disney ones. Garfield's, Foot Rot Flats.
Yeah.
You always have them.
Well, everything you've mentioned there, me too. And
Mad Magazine.
When I was little, and I'd occasionally buy like a Batman or a Green Lantern or something like that, I didn't like them when I was that young because they were too violent for me. They were too kind of scary. And it wasn't until I was a bit older that I started to appreciate that. Comics like The Punisher and things like that, I couldn't stand them when I was first starting to read comics because they were too much. And the Phantom
was just too short for me, and I always had ads in between the story.
But I think what's needed, like my kids, for example, they know all the Marvel DC characters so well, and it's not just from the comics and the movies; it's from the cartoons and the little video games on like Cartoon Network, and fun little interactive things that the kids can enjoy. Like my kids got into Teen Titans Go, that show.
Yep.
But not only the show, but if you went to the I don't know if it was a Warner Brothers website or Comedy Central or whatever, I don't know what the website was, but there were all these fun little video games, like little like sort of retro, sort of 1980s style, bouncing along, and really simple video games. And I think if we want to get kids to know who the Phantom is, they need to be playing, and I hate to say this in a way, but they need to be playing a game on their iPad which has the Phantom. And I think as well, the way that you're going to get the little kids is to bring back something fun and exciting and bright and colourful, like Defenders of the Earth. So you've got
I love Defenders of the Earth.
Because
my oldest, she's watched the whole 65 episodes of Defenders of the Earth twice. I started watching it with her, and then she just left me for dead and just like, no, sorry, Dad, I'm watching it. And she's watched the whole series twice. She knew the song. She would dance to the song, do the little skull mark, and
did she like Jenna?
Jeddah, yeah. She really liked Jeddah.
Yeah. So I think that's key to understanding what the kids want. The kids relate to teenage characters, young, exciting teenage characters. And who have we got in the Phantom at the moment? It's Kit and Heloise. Like Kit and Heloise, I think, are the key to bringing in a younger crowd and keeping them as well.
Interesting. So
Defenders of the Earth, which has Kit and Heloise in it. I mean, I don't know, maybe they bring back Defenders of the Earth and have Jeddah in it. Maybe it's that same, sort of slightly alternative universe, because that can work as well. Like if you think about the massive difference between all the Batman cartoons and shows and Teen Titans Go, they're different. They're entirely different sort of universes, but the characters are the same. So you've got some fun little short character-based cartoon, lots of bright colors. The Phantom is in it, and there's scenes in the jungle which are exciting, and there's also some Flash Gordon stuff in space and some magic. It sort of appeals to everyone. It's inclusive. There's boys and girls in it, all different nationalities as well. Like, it's very inclusive. That's a fun little thing for younger kids. And then might be like a comic series with about the twins, primarily focusing on the twins. Not as Phantoms though, have the Phantom in it, but like the real focus is the twins. The TV show, like a lot of this we talked about before, having a generational TV show, which has Billy Zane as an older Phantom in the first episode perhaps, and then he passes it on to his son. And there could be some flashbacks of him de-aged. Imagine how cool that would be.
Yeah. And you could picture Billy Zane being up for that. Because
sure.
in the podcast we did with him and everything I've seen him do and all that, you can almost just see that he wishes he could have done more Phan.
Yeah.
And he would go back to it in whatever format he could.
Yeah. And so it's great. So and I'm assuming that's where the digital element will come in as well, like because digital's you think the digital element's fairly big and key as well.
Well, I just think they should be focusing on all these different avenues, like merchandise. Why is it so hard to get Phantom merchandise? You should be able to get pencil cases and rubbers and stationery sets and T-shirts and hats and like you name it. But see, if they've got a program like, which is sort of like Teen Titans Go for a younger crowd, and it has that associated merchandise, then you'll have little kids with backpacks with the Phantom and Lothar and Mandrake on it, and they'll start to know those characters. And then
it'll be all the little toys in the Hungry Jacks and McDonald's kids.
That's right, and that's what Duncan spoke about, like with the K-Zone magazines. Like if there's occasionally like a little Phantom figure in there, it'll mean nothing to kids. They won't even collect it. But if they know the character from the video games, or they know the character from the funny YouTube episodes. I mean, it might even just be a YouTube series.
Yeah.
Rather than something which is like on TV. If they get serious and make some really good content for YouTube, and that's always on Instagram and TikTok as well, and they start making some memes, and suddenly the Phantom is in their world. And it's a good representation of the Phantom. It's not like the Phantom 2040 or that other TV show, they had, a decade or two ago. Where
you're not a fan of 2040?
Look, I actually don't mind 2040. I just think that's probably not the best way to get the little kids in.
Yeah, it's more of an older team.
Yeah, they could certainly bring that back. I think there's certainly a place for that. And like the more Phantom, the better. I'd love it if they brought back 2040, but I don't think that's how you get the kids in.
No, I think something like Defenders of the Earth is probably more key.
Phantom 2040 is when that's only 18 years away. We're like 60 years old then.
Yeah.
Careful what you wish for.
Yes, they would. I've actually thought about that before coming on as well, that 2040 it would have to be rejigged, but a future Phantom, in any capacity would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Just rename it.
Awesome. So what are some underutilized elements of the Phantom that you see? Like Huz and Steggy, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Look, I'm satisfied. I don't really think that there's any underutilized. I mean, I might rethink it later, but I don't, I draw Steggy in pinups as a bit of a joke. Like I've hulked him up and just sort of I'm putting it out to people. Imagine if this is what Steggy was like, if he was actually like a good ally to the Phantom, like if the Phantom actually used him and you could, bust him out of prison and be this big bulletproof guy.
I do like your version of Huz. I reckon your version of Huz is probably the scariest, more realistic cave monster.
You're going to have to superimpose that image here, Jim. You know that in the edit.
Yeah, if I was organised, I've got that poster.
Imagine if there was a kid's cartoon and it had reoccurring appearances of this his character and Steggy and, all these characters are put in it in a fun way. And it's not too serious, and like the older fans don't get offended by it because it's not it's not ruining their childhood or whatever. But there were some really I guess those are underutilized characters. Like Hulk introduced this crazy caveman and then his stupid wife, hers, and like the whole thing was just such a.
Don't forget Rooks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it was almost bearable for the first one, and then when the family got introduced, it was like, oh.
Yeah. And there's the little dinosaurs, and just there were all these elements that came in, and like I don't know if that was the 70s or 80s, but it just wasn't great.
I think it's fair to say that that might have been the era when Falk was microdosing on mushrooms or something.
Yeah, science fiction was taking off, and he thought, I better jump on board that. We'll have there were a lot of storylines that had some pretty interesting ideas, but
more suited for Mandrake.
Why not mine some of those ideas and flip them a bit, and maybe fine-tune them, and present them to kids?
Yeah, because kids like dinosaurs. They like stuff like that. So yeah, you're probably right. Like, make it really cartoony, really childish.
The essence of the Phantom, is justice, but also like conservation and caring about animals. So, you really focus on devil and hero as really good little characters, and the Phantom's taking down poachers, or he's like shutting down like some place there's a lot of pollution, which is ruining the jungle. And put the little people in it flying around on their birds, and all these little things that Phantom fans don't necessarily want in the comics.
Yeah,
the kids can enjoy it.
Yeah. No,
you've got to imprint it on them at some point, don't you? And if your target audience there is your 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and then as they get older, the stories grow and adapt for them. And they find that in the comic books.
So like you've got Defenders of the Earth, which is its own thing. It's not going to impact on the main Phantom universe, because people will understand it's a separate thing.
It's a different.
Some people will come to love those characters, and who knows? You might end up seeing a Defenders of the Earth movie, which is in its own standalone universe. Like the new Batman movie is kind of proof of that, and the Joker movie, they're unconnected. They tried to do the Marvel thing and have it all connected, and DC just didn't work out for them. But they're soldiering on. They've still got a massive money maker in Batman. If only the fans.
I tried watching that, but I couldn't see it. It's just too dark.
Oh, the Batman.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It's very dark. You got to bring yourself. You got to bring a torch along with you to be able to see anything. But yeah. All right. Big question. Big question. Probably the biggest question of any Phantom fan. And there's no sitting on the fence. Okay. Hello, Steve. What side of the fence are you on? Falkism or the modernism? Or postmodern Falkism?
Well, where would we be without Falk? I've got to go with Falk, but to a certain extent. Like Falk up until the late 40s, pure gold, and then things weren't all that great for a while, and then Cy Barry came in and everything got good again, and then started to decline. So I don't know, can't I sit on the fence?
It's not fun saying and just sit on the fence.
Yeah. But I mean, Falk's long gone as well. Those original stories are the closest to me. Like I love, as you all know, if anyone's read my stories or heard me talk before, I love the 1930s Phantoms more than any other period. But what I'm seeing come out from Tony the Pole is just amazing work, and he's doing things entirely different, and he's kept the same ethos, I guess, the same elements, the important crux of what the Phantom is. But he's, he just, you can just see, he's got a long game. He's planning ahead. I'm really excited to see what he does, and the way that he's brought Kit and Heloise to the forefront has been outstanding. So yeah, I can't sort of.
If you like Tony's work and stuff like that, and I don't really think you can be a Falk a Falkist.
Yeah.
If if you're really
I was about to say exactly the opposite thing. I was about to say that
you're really digging, because Falkist is fork and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I can't be a Falkist
I
because
made up the word. I can come up with the terminology of it. Dan.
Well, I've got phantom stories out, and I'm not folk, so I can't be a Falkist because I'm not folk.
Oh, but I think you're right within the Fork universe, and I think you make deliberate efforts to do exactly that. So I think your writing. I think your writing is in the Forkist universe, and Germ's definition is too tight and too constraining, and we need to loosen up the reins.
Spoken like a true postmodernist.
Yeah. Well, that's the bit. I am a bit confused by the question. I'm not really sure what you're asking me. Like Falk's gone. Like his legacy stands. It has its strengths and its weaknesses. I do think that every new writer coming along, they should know their stuff.
Yes.
Like that's why, to me, Duncan's probably my favourite writer. Definitely my ultimate. He is my favourite local writer by a mile, because he knows his stuff. He's done his research. Tony DePaul is so good because he knows his stuff as well. So, it's the whole thing of standing on the shoulder of giants. Lee Falk created this fantastic character. He created this amazing back catalogue of stories, hits and misses. But yeah, someone that comes along and diverts from that is disrespecting the entire thing, in my opinion.
But that's not what modernism or postmodernism is. It's the terminology from a phantom perspective is that you're building on Lee Falk, where a Falkist is fork and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I guess I like writers who are sort of like revisionists. Like I like artists who push ahead forwards, but they respect the past.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what I try and do. I look at things from phantom lore and incorporate it, even silly things like the Stegosaurus. But to me, Falk's strength was creating the personality of the phantom, and that if someone doesn't get that right, I'm not interested. Well, I'm still interested, but I don't enjoy it as much. Like when the phantom does things which I can't imagine Lee Falk's phantom doing, I think that's not the phantom. That's someone else.
Like dare I say it, at the back of the Frew page where the phantom's drinking venom to make himself like a Frankenstein.
Yeah, look, but Andrew's got his style. I know there are a few issues in that story that you weren't particularly happy with, and they, they stand out, don't they? Because we've got this idea of the phantom and what he does and what he doesn't do, and when a story comes along and there's something like that in it, it just kind of like it takes you out of the story for a minute. Like it's like you think, oh, hang on, what's going on? That's not the phantom. But I'm not saying that to discredit anyone else. This is just my feeling.
Yep. No worries. So another hard question.
I'll say something which might surprise you as well. Like there's certain parts of the folk lore which I don't necessarily like.
Okay. Tell us more.
And they've become so sort of ingrained in the phantom. Like, and this will be a biggie. You might not like me after this, but the phantom not drinking alcohol. I don't see that as a really important thing. I can't imagine why the phantom wouldn't drink alcohol. Maybe when he's on duty, sure, but at all, ever, like at home with Diana in the Skull Cave enjoying some nice wine. Is that such a bad thing?
He's ransacked so many pirate treasures. Surely he's enjoyed a nice bottle of rum at some point.
Yeah, and also is that a decision of the current phantom, or have all the phantoms been like that? Like I read stories now about previous phantoms who don't drink, and I think, well, why aren't they drinking? It's kind of like the Phantom killing as well. Like, I don't want the Phantom to be killing people non-stop. I don't like it when the Phantom kills people. But there are stories where he does, and some people are very rigid about, the Phantom mustn't kill. But the Phantom has killed. The Phantom does kill. There was a massive body count in a fairly recent Tony DePaul story. And it was handled well because the Phantom felt really bad about it, that he was he was in that situation. Previous Phantoms, it's easy to portray them as killing because they came from different times. And I don't plan. I'm not writing a story where the Phantom kills anyone, but I don't think that idea should be off limits completely. Wearing his suit under a hat and having glasses over the top, I just think that's dumb.
I'm loving where this discussion's going. We're going to get a lot of comments on social media.
If you're walking around the streets wearing a purple, cowl,
people are going to notice that, aren't they? And
they're going to notice.
We've seen it in fan films and that sort of thing where they've tried to get away with it. You just can't.
Yeah. So.
So should it be like in the movie where he takes his cowl off and still wears the sunnies?
Yeah, for sure. I like the way that actually the first time I ever saw Mr. Walker was in The Beanstalk, the Hans Lindahl illustrated story where the Beanstalk is this
amazing story.
Yeah. And that was one of my first ever Phantom stories that I ever bought. And Mr. Walker is in it, visiting the prison. And you can see his ears, you can see a bit of his sideburns, you can see the back of his head and his hair. And, I thought that was really cool. I thought, so the Phantom actually does like go undercover. Like he's got, and I didn't realize that the Phantom had like a different identity. And then, later in the same comic, he's wearing his suit under the hat and jacket. And I just thought, that looks so stupid. Who's he trying to fool? I was only 8 years old and I thought, that's dumb. And then I realized that's a big part of the Phantom history, he always used to do that. Like right back in the day, he'd have a cravat on, which I think are horrible. And his glasses over the top, or they slid in. It's hard to kind of see.
So Paul Ryan updated the Mr. Walker alias with the baseball cap and the bomber jacket. Do you prefer that than the old trench coat?
Yeah, I do. But I think it's got to do with the Phantom timeline as well. Like, some people see the Phantom as a character from the 30s, and I do. I always see the Phantom as an older story. But, in a contemporary world, would the Phantom be wearing a cravat and a big, massive trench coat and a hat? No way. I still like that look. I like the classic look of the trench coat, but it's very dated.
Yeah, very dated. It was dated. It was dated in the 40s.
Yeah.
Let alone in 80 years afterwards.
Yeah.
I actually quite like what Jeff Weigel did and Tony DePaul working with him, obviously, in the latest Sunday, where the Phantom doesn't actually have a uniform to be the walking the streets as an ordinary man. He could be anyone. He looks like a delivery driver. He looks like a pizza. Yeah, he's in a suit walking past. He's a businessman. You just don't know who he is.
And that makes a lot of sense. That's a thing that you could imagine the Phantom doing. And to me, that doesn't take away from Lee Falk. It's just it's a new idea which makes sense. So I'll go with it.
So does that mean he has like a van with like full of costumes and stuff, a bit like what's the Scooby Doo and his friends? It's not. I was about to say the Shagmobile, but it's not what it is called.
It's Incorporated. I forget what the band's called. But I've thought about if the Phantom he's one of the richest men in the world. And he's got these resources. And how does he use these resources to fight crime? Surely he might, I mean, I don't know if this has ever been explored in the story, but he probably have some storehouses around the place, you know. He goes into town, he's got or, you know, a couple of lockers. You know, in a way he could be like a spy. He could have, you know, places where he can go to if he's injured. There can be cash in there, there can be weapons, there can be changes of civilian clothes. He could go there just to bandage himself up if he needs a respite. And he could have those all over the world.
There was a similar element in the last Phantom series by Dynamite Entertainment, where he basically had secret agents throughout the countries and stuff that were able to help, you know, like clean up a crime scene or you know, help smuggle him across the border and stuff like that. Now I think they called it the Jungle Patrol, and they might have went too far, but I think there, you know, along with what you're saying, you could have a contact in, you know, in each country, or in, you know, one in Europe, or, you know, whatever.
That, I mean, that to me sounds like they've taken that idea and pushed it just a little bit too far. Like having the Phantom work alone is another kind of trope. I think the Phantom does often rely on other people. Like he does, you know, he makes use of the people around in each story. But having like a network, an established network, and calling it the Jungle Patrol, you know, the Jungle Patrol don't patrol the worlds, they patrol the jungle. I guess one thing, you know, a previous question, underutilized, the Jungle Patrol are underutilized. We could see a bit more done with them.
Yeah. So Duncan said exactly the same thing with the Jungle Patrol, and, you know, kind of more like a, you know, I guess go back and listen to episode 216.
Yeah, I remember
about that.
Really,
but it was a great idea about that. So yeah. Awesome. All right. Should we kill off the 21st Phantom?
There's one person that could do it, I reckon, and it's Tony DePaul.
So if Tony DePaul does it, it's open season.
I just think that he would do it well.
Yeah.
But I'm conflicted. I think I really understood what Duncan was saying about that opportunity has passed. Like the Phantom we've got now is what did he say? Like, it's the eternal gift. But as I've said many times already tonight, the future with Kit and Heloise is looking good, and everything looks like it's heading towards, you know, like the climax. Now, having said that, I don't think we have to kill the Phantom to have the next generation take over. I've never felt, I know that's the way it's always been, you know, the father dies, the son picks up the oath. But, you know, when you think about the Skull Oath, you know, I swear to devote my life to the destruction of piracy, greed, cruelty, and injustice. We can say that the current Phantom has devoted his life. He has.
So life's not when you die.
Yeah. And my sons and their sons shall follow me. Does that necessarily mean that they're going to follow you after your death, or they're going to follow you? And we've seen in like the childhood of the Phantom, it kind of makes out that the Phantom returned home when his mother died, and he spent time with his father, working alongside him
and fighting pirates.
Fighting pirates in it, unless I'm mistaken, like in a Phantom suit.
I don't think he was in a Phantom suit, but, you know, it was one panel. He could have not been wearing a Phantom suit that panel.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
And there would be actually all sorts of benefits to the son also being in the Phantom suit, because then the Phantom is many men.
Yeah.
That's how those sorts of old jungle sayings get going.
Exactly. And I think, you know, we talked about last time, Jermaine, that too many people in the jungle have seen Kit for it to work. You know, like no one is, if the Phantom dies and Kit starts wearing the costume, all the chiefs and all the people in the jungle are going to go. So they're going to go, oh, it's Kit.
Yeah.
Because we've known him since he was a baby. Like, he really should have been hidden away this whole time, but he's been out there.
Because on the one hand that makes perfect sense, but on the other hand, you know, if you're going to be the friend of the jungle, you have to be around, knowing the people, and stuff. And I'm not sure whether you put on do a Batman and disguise your voice and go, I am the Phantom, but the kids have to be around to be able to know the jungle, to be able to
they have to know their
the language,
network. They have to be there. So
but
and I know it's just a comic, it's not real life, but I guess my point is, I don't think we need to see the 21st die to have Kit and or Heloise become the Phantom. And in fact, I'd much rather see those two suit up and become Phantoms with him, and then he can bow out gracefully and not die. Because why does he have to die? I want him to see his grandchildren.
So does that mean we are going to see, obviously not in our life, but in comic years, we're going to see them continually to age? So in another 5-10 years, we are going to see Kit and Heloise swear the oath, the 21st retire, and then we can kind of like reset. Because I think the problem is that we keep resetting the timeline.
Yes.
And
the problem.
And it's a problem. But if we have the passing of the mantle, you can kind of like okay, so Kit and Heloise took over the Phantom role in 2025.
Yeah.
You know, so that means they were born around 2000 or something. Let's that's their birth date, and then you can kind of have, then you can kind of push and spread out every other past Phantom.
They were born in 1979, Jim.
Yeah, I know that, but you can't have what does that mean? The 79, that's
the same age.
That'd be 43.
You can't have a 45-year-old take over the Phantom.
It's a tricky situation. And I know, like, having read what Tony DePaul said, he doesn't seem to want to do that. I don't think he likes that idea. I love that idea, and I've talked to you guys about that before. But I also concede what Duncan said, that maybe it's too late. If Falk had have done it from the start, it would be fantastic. I think people would grow up loving their Phantom and mourning him, seeing the new one come up. I think there'd always be this sense of tension. Like, even now, like with Tony's writing, for the first time ever, like, you get the feeling that the Phantom could die. There is this tension that things are real. Like, these kids are ready. They're at an age where they're almost ready to take it on. So is this going to be
a tease? Tony's a big tease.
He's been doing it for about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, because you had the Curse of Old Man Moz, where Old Man Moz sees him die by the bullet in the back or something like that. So, he cheats death there. And we're like, okay, we saw that happening. But then in the current storyline, it's like, well, is he teasing us again? Are we just going to have this storyline for 4 years and then see him die? Or, are we now going to see 2 different timelines? He's a great tease, and he'll be giggling. He'll be giggling with what we're saying right now.
I kind of feel like there's 2 ways it could go. The way it's always gone, keep the status quo. And I don't know, maybe I'm a bit sick of the status quo. Maybe I do want to see a change.
I am as well.
Yeah. And I mean, the other alternative, which is probably too extreme for people, is that it becomes real time. And, we have Kit and Heloise, they'll get married, they'll have kids, the kids will grow up, and every, I don't know, 25 years or so, there's a death, or at least there's a passing on from father to the son. I mean, just the comic would be so different if it had have been like that from the start.
And part of the problem is, and we talked about this being the great thing about Phantom Stories, part of the problem is saying goodbye to all of those fantastic secondary and tertiary characters. If you move into Kit and Heloise being the new Phantoms, that's goodbye to Devil. That's goodbye to Hero. Diane getting older. Moz, how old can Moz get? There's a new president. It's all and sundry.
Yeah, I know that. I agree. They'd be making new characters, and you're exactly right. We would lose characters along the way.
But I think we've already seen that. Like, there's a new Longo Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't seen it with any of the. We haven't seen it with all of the really
the main secondary,
the main characters. Yeah.
Brands, you Diana.
I don't want to see Diana die.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Kit and Heloise die.
And some of those characters, you don't want to even see them get old.
Yeah.
So what about Dr. Axel? Could you handle him dying?
Nope.
I want to say something, but I'm not. I'll say it. You're in for a bit of a shock.
Oh.
If you that I'll just say it. All the Phantom Men readers know what I'm talking about.
Oh, well, then it doesn't count if it's Phantom. It's not real, mate.
There've been some terrific characters who've died, but they've mainly been like Archie, and he wasn't ever a Falk character. But those stories hit, they hit you. And like if you did have a story, like there was that story where the Phantom almost put down Hero because Hero was injured.
Hero's death sentence.
Yeah, and you see like the tears coming down.
Yeah.
Think, oh wow, this is intense. But he's not going to kill him.
Yeah.
All right, you know it.
There's still 3 more pages in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that Eden story as well. I think that was the closest I've got to crying in a Phantom story.
But imagine how amazing. I don't know if you guys have ever read like The Walking Dead. Like The Walking Dead is a story where main characters die. And the TV shows like that as well.
Yeah,
and
also like Game of Thrones as well. Like that. Yeah.
So you get attached to characters and you see them come and go. And it can be quite shocking when someone dies because that's it. They're not coming back. It's not going to be a dream sequence. There's not going to be some magic spell to bring them back. Like they're gone and they're gone. And with the Phantom, if the 21st, this was said by Duncan or someone said it in that podcast, that it doesn't mean the end of stories about him. There can always be chronicle stories about him. But yeah, like this isn't. I've got no right to answer this question. I'm just like everyone else. I'm just a Phantom fan. I want to see what happens. I've said a few times that I wish that it was real time, but there's pros and cons in that. And I trust what Tony's doing, but I am a bit sick of the status quo because I'm really, really pleased that the twins have aged because, like, I think the low point in the Phantom was when those kids were babies for quite a long time.
So what's interesting is with those stories you're talking about is the Frew editors before Jim Shepard actually did not publish those stories. So like if you have a look at when they were first created and then when they were first published, there's a big gap. And I remember reading Jim Shepard's comments when he published these stories. He goes, the previous publishers in their wisdom decided that these were too family focused or too family friendly and did not publish them. And I'm thinking, as a kid, like when I was really, really young, I thought, these are fun. But then as I'm older and a little bit more grouchier and stuff like that, I'm like, I can understand why they didn't publish them.
Yeah, I just imagine because that's pretty much how I felt. Like the Phantom was always going to Eden and have the kids, and there'd always be some threat, and he'd save the kids.
Well, the jungle felt like just it felt like just a park next door. It was like, you know, there was no danger. It wasn't a real jungle. It was like suburbia.
Mm. Yeah, look, it's too big a question for me to answer.
Okay, so on the back of that, if you were to create a story with the Phantom in World War II or Vietnam, which Phantom would you use?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't do it.
I think Duncan said the same thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
I think even Tony DuPaul said the same as well.
Yeah, and I mean, a story that came out probably 3 or 4 years ago, 1945. You know, I was really keen to pick that up and see who's this going to be.
Mm.
Here's a little thing for you. There's a lot of, I haven't explicitly said it in the current story, but if you look at the vehicles and the technology, and you might not be able to tell so much in the first installment, but in the second and third, you'll see there's nothing in it which is modern. And I actually asked Shane to make sure that all the fashion and all the vehicles and all technology, phones, cameras, that they were dated to the 1960s maximum.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I've kind of got my own little Phantom universe going at the moment, where the Phantom, you know, his story with Diana was set in the 30s, and the second story was set in the 40s, and now this story where the kids are teenagers, it could be taken that it's in the 1960s.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm looking at this page here, page 31, for those who've got the comic in front of them. You've got the ships, you've got the trucks, and stuff like that. It almost feels like it's a Cold War.
Yeah.
You know,
but I'm not going to force that down anyone's throat.
Yeah.
No, like you might read it that the Phantom and Diana had their kids and they've grown up, and it's now the 60s, 1960s. And those kids are, you know, getting towards the age of being the Phantom. And maybe in the 1970s, one of them would become the Phantom, you know. But that's not an integral part of the story. Like, it's just something maybe to ponder about. You know, when is this story set? You know, is this Phantom still alive now?
But do you think that's part of the problem that we have, is that every creator, and this is not having a go at you, but every creator has an opinion of where the Phantom is set. Like you're thinking, okay, so this is the 1960s. You know, Tony DuPaul's same age kids as what you've got is definitely modern, because they're you know, Heloise is fighting the Nomad in a Gulfstream jet, and you know, Heloise is very active on a mobile phone, and you know, and all that type of stuff. So do you think that is a problem that we have, where creators are, and I will use your words, I hope you don't mind, but creating their own little universes?
No, I don't think it's a problem, although I do get a bit annoyed when like I've tried not to push that on people, like that's you might just look at the cars in that town and think, oh, they've got old cars, you know.
And that's what I did. To be honest, I looked at it and I thought, well, you know, this guy's obviously, you know, you're looking at him, he's not well dressed, he's probably driving an older, you know, you go to some, I don't want to use the word backward places, but they, you know, they do drive around those type of older cars. Like, you know, I've got friends that have gone to North Korea, for example. They're all still using Cold War transport.
So where I find it difficult is when a story is really tied to a time because of an event, like World War II or like Vietnam or something like that. Because that's when I get a bit boggled down and think, oh, what, you know, who is this Phantom?
Yeah, which Phantom is
like
it?
the 1945 story,
Yeah.
And you know, like it's just making our Phantom older and older and older. And if he's a contemporary Phantom, then maybe, is he still the 21st, or is he, now like the 24th? Because we're making his father really, really old, or his father really,
we're
really
stretching.
old. Yeah.
And that's where we talked about before. We almost need just that moment where it's like, okay, boom, now we're into the 22nd Phantom.
Yeah.
So then we can go, okay, so the 21st Phantom was 2022 to, I don't know, swore it in 1980 or 1985 or something. And then we can kind of move every other Phantom.
Yeah.
Do their
that'll drive me bananas as well. That approach will drive me absolutely bananas, because if we now have a different Phantom in the 30s, well, to me, like the 21st Phantom is the 1930s.
Yeah, exactly. And Falk set it up with the Phantom Goes to War, or the Inexorables. The 21st Phantom was well and truly in World War II. So yeah, I don't know. This is one of those. Maybe I'm starting to get old enough to go, it's just comics, guys. Just set it wherever and don't stress too much about it.
We've been here for almost 2 hours. Why are you still with us if it's just comics?
Yeah. But it's exactly true. It's something that we shouldn't spend too much time thinking about. Enjoy the stories as they come out. But it does bug me a bit when you get a story where the Phantom was a child during World War II, like Eden, for example. In the story Eden, that shows him as a boy growing up with Archie, and Archie was killed by Nazi soldiers, and then we see our Phantom fighting the Japanese.
Yeah.
Then we see, a Phantom in Vietnam, and then we see a story called 1945, and it's not our Phantom.
Featuring the 19th.
It's just all over the place. So yeah, I would personally, stay away from putting the Phantom in
a specific
time.
Yeah.
And if I get an idea for a World War II story, I don't know what I'll do with it. I would avoid it in the first place. I'd go back to previous conflicts and previous things like the European stories.
But even they're going to become outdated and wrong. Like if we've still got the 21st Phantom in 100 years.
Yeah. Well, and we say 400 years ago, but is it 400 years ago now, or is it 500 years ago?
Almost 500, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, I think we'll sit on that one. We're not going to solve that problem or world peace in this podcast, but some very deep thoughts. If you're a listener and you're shouting at the podcast, shouting at YouTube, make sure you leave us some comments. We're on social media. Hang on, I'm going to sneeze. Let me get rid of that. So make sure you leave some comments and let us know if you agree with.
Just talk. It's just a couple of guys talking about a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Let us know if you agree with Matt, Dan, or myself, or think we're off our, we've gone off the deep end or something like that. Give us your thoughts. We love that. Now we'll have a couple of fun ones, I think, as we wrap up. I should say, first of all, I've heard some news about upcoming guests in some conventions. Did you want to tell us a bit about that briefly?
Yeah, I'm very, very happy. I'm going to be a guest at the Melbourne Oz Comic Con, which is coming up. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but keep your eyes posted for that. I'm also going to be heading to Sydney for Sydney Supernova, and I think I might be, hasn't been confirmed, but I'm looking at going to Adelaide as well for Supernova.
Nice. So you're going to come to the dinner, the Lee Falk Memorial Explorers?
I haven't actually. Yeah, haven't thought about it. It's the same time, is it?
Yeah, same weekend. And then a group of us all hang out on the Friday night before and stuff like that. So,
well, after some of the comments I've said tonight, I don't know if I'll be safe. I might turn up there. Especially Duncan's going to be there.
Yeah.
He'll take you under his wing, mate. You'll be right.
He'll be doing TikTok videos in his Phantom costume.
Yeah. Okay. If he'll shield me, I'll be fine.
Now, so while we're talking about Australia, obviously we are proud Australians. We love when the Phantom comes to Australia. Have you got any Phantom Australia stories in you?
No, not yet. No. I mean, I love it when the Phantom, went to Australia, and one of the things that I was drawn to the Phantom in those early days is that he was a real globe trotter. So yeah, I'd love to see him come back to Australia and have some adventures. I don't have one, but I'm sure someone will.
All right, and now you've listened to a lot of our podcasts. First of all, sorry for that. But we wanted to give you the chance to, is there anything that we've said on a past podcast that you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they've gone there? Whether it's reviewing one of your stories, or when it's Stephen sitting on the fence, or me saying something silly, or Dan just disagreeing with me for the sake of disagreeing with me. This is your chance. You got the floor for, I don't know, a minute or two where you've got your chance to have your right of say about something we might have said in the past.
No, look, there's a reason I keep coming back. The reason why I keep watching you guys, listening to you, and I get excited when the new video's out, when each time. Because I love all things Phantom, and I love the different opinions you have, and, sitting on the fence about these things. None of it really matters, it's just different opinions on a character we all love so much. So yeah, I love seeing what you guys think about everyone's stories, whether it's mine or Duncan's or Jason Force or Glenn Lumsden or whoever. I'm always keen to get your opinions, and sometimes it changes my perspectives on stories. If there's a story which I haven't really liked, and one of you guys are excited about it, I look back at it and think, oh yeah, I like that aspect, and I like when you guys are critical. Because I think there's no point just saying everything's great. I like that, you guys are real fans and you know your stuff, and so you can nitpick. I hope you do that with mine. I don't want you guys to think, I'll be offended if you pick things apart. It would make me a better writer. It would make anyone a better writer to have a good critique.
It sounds like just a fluff piece.
Glad you said that, mate, because I've got some points I'd like to raise with you.
Yeah.
No, it's funny that Jerm would give you a time on our podcast, because I think you would certainly be in our top 5 or 6 most contributors to the Chronicle Chamber or the X-Band podcast. You've hosted more to yourself than any of us, I think. So.
Well, what I'd really love to see is that you do get local creators involved. I had the time of my life doing a few videos for you, but I'd love to see, like Shane or Glenn or Jason or Jamie Johnson or Jeremy. I'd love to see them on a bit more, talking about their favourite stories. Because I find that fascinating. I really love to know when people got into the Phantom, what stories it was, what stories they don't like. I'm fascinated by that stuff as well. I'd love to see that.
No worries. There's some good food for thought for future podcasts. We're always trying to think of new things to do on the podcast, because sometimes we kind of sit on our chat and we're all scratching our heads. So I appreciate a couple of ideas. Dan, anything you want to ask or say before we wrap up?
Just to say thanks for your time, Matt. I know that we've scrambled together on a Friday night to have a chat, and I really appreciate the time to get to have a bit more of an in-depth chat with you. And just thanks for all you're doing, and enjoying the issue with Heloise saga as it's unfolding, and can't wait for issue 2 or part 2.
Go Team Lara.
Exactly.
There's an edit point. I'll edit a bit where you say Alicia and put that over the top. So, but no, in all seriousness, Matt, really appreciate you joining us, giving us some insight. giving us all a bit of input. Hopefully the fans and the listeners have enjoyed it as well. Hopefully they've enjoyed the first part, which is in this issue. Second part and will be not
It won't be the next one. But hopefully the one after that.
Yeah. So you only have to wait maybe a couple more weeks. So hopefully all the fans have enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoy the next parts as well. If you've got feedback, please, you can leave comments on YouTube. There's a few of you that do that. We do read all of the feedback. There's a few creators, including Tony and Matt, that comment and stuff like that as well. So it's good to see some fan and creator engagement as well. We're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Soon, TikTok, once Duncan gets a few more videos recorded. We're on our website, which is chroniclechamber.com, our email, which is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. And you can subscribe to us via YouTube or your various podcast apps. From myself, thank you everyone. Stay safe, and until next time, happy fantasy.
Happy fantasy, folks.
Injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die. The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware. The Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom